you all for tuning in to episode 10, the big 1-0 of Pushing the Pylon. This is your host, Jim Tannhauser, and we have a huge episode for today. A lot of stuff to talk about around the league, some of it on the field, and unfortunately, tragically, some of it off the field. And that's exactly what we're going to start with. We're going to cut right to the chase. Henry Ruggs III, wide receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders, was, anyway, a receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders before the other day, and I'll read it right here so I don't get any of the information wrong. At approximately 3:39 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesday, the police department of Las Vegas announced and responded to a traffic collision involving a Chevy Corvette and a Toyota RAV4. Responding officers located the Toyota RAV4 on fire, and fire department personnel located a deceased victim inside the Toyota. Now, if you didn't see the video, that paragraph, that excerpt, doesn't really do justice because the video was horrific. To think that someone was in that car engulfed in flames is an absolute tragedy. You can't say anything more than just condolences and thinking about the family and those who were affected by the loss of the 23-year-old female victim. And that's really all to say about that in terms of the tragedy part of it. There's really nothing to say. But on the flip side, Henry Ruggs, 22-year-old himself, very young, full life, full NFL career ahead of him until that night. He was later booked by the police department. His blood alcohol level was, taken, I think, an hour or so after the accident, and it was still egregiously high. Not that there is a good limit, to be drunk and driving, but nonetheless, his car was destroyed. The other car obviously destroyed. Reports had him driving at about 156 miles per hour. I can't even fathom seeing a car going 156 miles an hour down a Las Vegas road that didn't really look like a busy city or highway by any means. It looked like almost, just a main road in a neighborhood. And to go nearly 160 miles an hour drunk, carelessly, 4 a.m, and you take someone's life from them and they probably didn't even know it happened. Hit right from the back. It's disgusting, just drunk driving, period. Don't do it. Hopefully I'm not the person to be the wake-up call. Hopefully you've heard many others say it before me. Do not drive drunk. Don't do it. It's the stupidest thing you can do. And it's completely secondary to your own health and safety. Everyone else's health and safety. I'm far from the only one that's, known people or befriended people who have been victims in drunk driving accidents. Many of you, are people or know people that were in those situations, and it's just terrible. It needs to stop. And when we have, role models like NFL players or athletes or celebrities partake in it, a lot of times what you end up getting is them getting arrested, and you get a mugshot that gets memed around the internet. Everyone kind of has a laugh, and it goes away. In this case, someone died. A life was taken that night that didn't have to be, all because Henry Ruggs III decided that he could drive home. And not only could he drive home, but he could drive at such a ridiculous, illegal, unfathomable speed. And it's just tragic. I have to cover it. It's Pushing the Pylon. We talk about football here and football-related news. However, this has a very real and scary element to it. Completely side note, the Raiders did release him immediately after this news. They removed any mention of him in the facility of the Las Vegas Raiders. They stopped selling his jerseys at the team store. And in Las Vegas, as a matter of fact, they say if convicted, he faces a minimum 2 to 20 years in prison. Now, we know how that goes with celebrities and legal trouble. They kind of skirt off a lot of times from the real punishments and get a watered-down version of it. And look, Henry Ruggs, 22-year-old kid, you know, we all made mistakes when we were 22. I'm 26. I'm still making mistakes. But nothing like this. This is criminal activity. And even if it was one bad decision, well, guess what? You can still be a criminal decision. You killed somebody. Manslaughter, however you want to put it. And he has to pay the price for that. And the very short-term price is that no NFL team's going to want him. He may be in prison for, like I said, 2 to 20 years, so who knows even if he's thought of ever again after this. But it's sad. Ruggs stayed on the scene and showed signs of impairment, they said. Yeah, I guess so. I'm assuming the signs of impairment was driving 156 miles an hour and crashing right into the back of a Toyota at 3:30 in the morning. But whatever the other signs were, just adds on. From a football side of it, the Raiders still have to play football on Sunday. And trying to, you know, talk football in this situation, Henry Ruggs was one of their star players. I mean, he had almost 500 receiving yards, a pair of touchdowns this year, averaged almost 20 yards a catch. None of that really matters to this story, but what I'm getting at is that the Raiders are going through a crazy year in terms of controversy, in terms of finding out people's true character and colors within their organization. It was John Gruden, it's Henry Ruggs now, and I'm sure the Raiders just want to play football. I feel terrible for the players that have to deal with all this, who really have no guilt or no reason to feel guilty, but they play for the Raiders, and right about now, that's a terrible brand to be a part of. Hopefully everybody involved in the situation, you know, finds peace in it, moves on, and we can get back to talking about football and never have to talk about something like this in a future podcast. But I felt the need to address it, and Henry Ruggs just he's gonna have a very long time to think about what he did, what he didn't do. One thing he didn't do was call Uber. And not only did he not call Uber like the rest of us can any day, regardless of price should be secondary. Getting home safe is number one. The NFL offers a program to get these players home with Uber, as far as I know, and gets them home no problem. Ruggs just thought he was better than this, or Ruggs was too drunk to think about that, or he didn't want to call to get the organization knowing he was out drunk and couldn't drive. Whatever it may be, whatever the excuse is, it's not enough. It's not a real good excuse, and you do the crime, and we're gonna find out Henry Ruggs probably does the time here. I don't think he escapes the punishment ultimately. Like I said before, celebrities tend to. This one just feels like someone's got to learn a lesson here. Drunk driving has to stop, and it shouldn't take someone dying to have to say that, and for that to be known and agreed upon by the general community. But we're going to move on out of that topic for now. If any more news comes out in the coming weeks, Pushing the Pylon's certainly going to cover it. And yeah, moving right along here, we have the Green Bay Packers facing another player personnel issue of their own, much less serious, however. Aaron Rodgers test positive for COVID-19. He is not playing Sunday. He is out against the Chiefs. And some of you may say, well, wait a minute, can't he get a test and test negative before Sunday and play? Perhaps if he was vaccinated. Aaron Rodgers was secretly or muddying the waters of people knowing that he was unvaccinated. Back in August, he was asked at a press conference if he was vaccinated, and he said he was immunized, which at the time only a few reporters picked up on. They're showing the videos now. I believe Michael Smith was one of those media members that picked up on it right away. But the wording he used was wise, right? For his own sake, I guess. Dumb in the grand scheme of things, in my opinion, but wise for him and his image. He's coming back. Remember, the offseason was very controversial. No one knew if he was retiring, if he was going to a different team, if he was going to be the host of Jeopardy. So this was when he returned to the Packers finally, and he got asked this question. So for him to say he wasn't for him to say that he was immunized didn't touch on the fact that he wasn't vaccinated, which is a big difference. I'm not sure what he used, if he used some home remedy or some research remedy to make himself feel like he built up antibodies where he didn't have to get vaccinated. Well, guess what? You have to get vaccinated because of things like this. He tested positive anyway. And yes, all the people who are anti-vax or whatever, this isn't a vaccination podcast. You can still get it when you're vaccinated, of course you can, but much less severe, much less likely, and much less likely you make it severe for others. But yeah, this is a big thing. Again, we have a very real news story, a very real life event, and you kind of have to put it to the side after discussing it, and you talk about the football, the on-the-field effects of that. And in this case, Jordan Love is going to be the starter Sunday. The Packers flew in Blake Bortles. They're going to put him on the 53-man squad. 52-man squad, 53. I'm not sure why I can't remember here. He's on the squad to back up Jordan Love on Sunday. This is going to be the first start for Jordan Love. They drafted him in the first round. This was, if you remember, very controversial, as the Packers are notorious for not getting Aaron Rodgers help with those early picks on offense. And instead they picked up Jordan Love that year, which I think began, if not encouraged or fanned the flame of all the animosity between Rodgers and the Packers front office, leading to what we saw this past summer. I think Jordan Love can have a good game against the Chiefs. The Chiefs, and we'll get to the Chiefs later talking about their Monday Night Football game, but my God, is their defense just not it this year? It isn't. It's terrible. It's not that the offense is playing good. I mean, the offense does not look anything like the Chiefs have looked in the past few years. But nonetheless, Jordan Love, guy who's never played started an NFL game, we should feel very pessimistic about that. We should feel like, the kid might not have a good game against the Chiefs, his first start. Why can't he have a great game? We just saw Mike White come in for the Jets and throw for 400 yards and beat a top seed in the AFC, the Cincinnati Bengals. And you're telling me Jordan Love can't go against the paper-made Chiefs defense and win a game? Why not? Especially if that Packers defense can click a little bit and contain the Chiefs like the Giants were able to on Monday. You give the ball to Jordan Love down 3 in the fourth quarter, maybe he can do something of it. Daniel Jones wasn't able to. Again, I'm getting into that very soon. I might as well transition to it from this. But he has some weapons. I mean, the Packers don't have the receiving core to flaunt about like everyone else does. I haven't heard about Davante Adams, so live on the podcast, we'll do a Davante Adams update here. And let's see. Let's find out, as a matter of fact. I'm not seeing any confirmation that he's definitely coming back here. Yeah, here they hope to have Davante Adams back for Sunday, along with their other receivers. Probably Allen Lazard, Valdez-Scantling. They need those players back, especially if Jordan Love's the quarterback. They need him back even if Aaron Rodgers is. But especially if the young kid, first NFL start, you want to give him all the weapons he can against the best quarterback in the league, talent-wise, not accolade-wise. Brady, Mahomes fans, settle down. And it should be a good game regardless. I think the line is a huge change. We had a basically even line, or the Chiefs were favorites by a half point. Now the Chiefs are favored by 7.5 points. Last I checked, that could be 7 by now. So on one side of it, you're sitting there saying, gee, can a kid who's never played in the NFL keep a game within 7? And you're sitting here on the other side saying, this terrible Chiefs team I've been watching, can they win by more than 7? One of those things has to happen, right? Movable object against unstoppable force. We'll see how that goes on Sunday. Monday Night Football, to bring those gears back a little bit, we had the New York Giants go into Arrowhead and narrowly lose to the Chiefs. Shout out to my good friend Nathan, Giants fan out there. He told me on Sunday when I'm sitting there saying, the Chiefs are going to whoop them. The Chiefs are going to go in and finally be the Chiefs we all expect and beat the Giants by double digits. He said, Jim, I don't think so. I think the Giants are going to lose by 3. 20-17 score later. I had to text him, give him congratulations, which is a weird congratulations to give. Like, hey, congrats, you nailed the prediction of your team losing. Don't worry, I'm used to that. I'm used to that as a Jaguars fan. But as I said, 20-17 final score. Harrison Butker hits a go-ahead kick with about a minute or so left in the game in the fourth quarter. Daniel Jones had a chance to win the game. Wasn't in the cards, however. Good game, though. 22 for 32, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick for Daniel Jones. Arguably, and some may not even say arguably, outplayed Patrick Mahomes. 29 for 48, 275 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. And both those interceptions came within almost consecutive plays of one another. You had Mahomes' first drive of the game, or very early on, get all the way down the field, throw a pick before he could get a score. Giants get the ball back. All this momentum of stopping the Chiefs. Daniel Jones gives the ball right back. So then the Chiefs eventually, give it to Tyreek Hill. They go up 7-0. And if you watch the game, you know how the rest goes. Tyreek Hill finally had another superstar explosive game. He hasn't been able to, I feel like, in past weeks with the Chiefs struggling. He's obviously Tyreek Hill, so if anybody's going to have the best stats of a game, it's usually him. 12 catches, 94 yards, and a touchdown. On the flip side, the Giants, their leading receiver only had 2 catches. That's John Ross, and one of those catches was about a 50-yard bomb or a 50-yard run, however you want to put it. Surprisingly good game, though, on Monday Night Football. I was very impressed by that. I wasn't expecting it, to be fair. Besides the fact that the Chiefs, I haven't seen that many yellow flags in a long time. They just can't stop getting penalties, and that's what kills that offense. That's what kills the defense eventually. It's a chain reaction. We know this. But at 4-4, the Kansas City Chiefs are only about 1 game out of first place. And as we just said, they're playing the Packers this week. Jordan Love's going to be the starter. Who's to say they don't go 5-4? Who's to say they can't turn the season around from this point forward? I don't know. The reason they can, though, is of a guy like this, Patrick Mahomes. I can't doubt the guy. I must have said about 1,000 times in this past season between week 2 and now that the Chiefs will be fine. That the Chiefs will be the team we see run the AFC. They'll probably end up in the Super Bowl again. And then in January or February, everyone's going to act like they knew the Chiefs were going to be good again. I think, like I said, though, they can still win that division. Chargers look really good, even though they just came off a loss to the Patriots. I think the Chiefs can win that division. And you know what? Pushing the Pylon official prediction alert. Kansas City Chiefs are still going to win the AFC West. I'll post this little clip when they do. And if they don't, burn it. It's never happened before. On the flip side for the Giants, though, that's a really heartbreaking loss. They're 2-6 now in a division where the Cowboys are just rolling along. Even without Dak Prescott, they're out here winning on Sunday Night Football. Tough for the Giants. Tough. They're finally showing a little moxie here in these past few weeks. Saquon Barkley may come back this week, if not the week after. So the Giants may be a fun team to watch down the stretch, and may be an intriguing team to not pick against during the season with those spreads, because they may make some games fun where some teams may not, or some lines makers may not expect them to make it a good game. So we'll see. Giants next week, however, go against, speaking of the devil, the Las Vegas Raiders. So after a week like this, why can't the Giants go and win? I did forget they did have 13 people test positive for COVID between coaches and players. Eventually they retested. I think only one ended up being positive the next time. So big scare for them. Looks like they shook it off, however. And they're going to host the Raiders on Sunday in New Jersey. New Jersey. East Rutherford, New Jersey. And I don't know what the line is. I haven't looked yet. But I think the Giants might win that game. They might. And then the week after they play the Bucs. So we'll see if they can hold momentum. But it's going to be tough from this point forward. Jim's Jags report time. I didn't want to get to this I was sitting here earlier today, going through the script of what I'm going to talk about on Pushing the Pylon today. And I said, oh yeah, I talk about the Jags every episode. This one's a lot tougher than Victory Sunday or Victory Monday. Because if you watch Waterboy, I'll do my best Rob Schneider impression. We suck again. That was terrible. But point being, we suck again. The Jaguars, they looked awful. Was it? The Seattle Seahawks embarrassed them. Geno Smith, and I'll pull out the stats right now so we can go over them, but we made it look like Russell Wilson was still playing. And he was out, and Geno Smith was playing. A 31-7 football game. Really? You couldn't even keep it close. You couldn't even score double digits. You get blown out and only score 7, and that 7 was at the end of the game. And not only was that 7 at the end of the game, you could have went for 2 because it was 24-6. So going for 2 would make it a 2-possession game if you get it. Coaching and football 101. They kick the extra points. They stay behind by 3 possessions. Bonehead play. But sure, do the bonehead play if you're throwing in the towel. If you're done playing, move on to next week, right? These dumb idiots go and kick an onside kick after just taking yourselves out of the game to make it 2 possessions. And then those dumb morons kicked the ball right to Seattle. And Seattle ran back an onside kick for a touchdown. That only happens with the Jaguars. Or in Madden. That won't happen 99% of the time with any real-life team actually trying a little bit. But it happens with the Jaguars. Of course it does. Because life's a joke when you're a Jaguars fan, right? Except for like 1-2 years out of every decade. Geno Smith, 20 for 24, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns, not a single pick. Tyler Lockett, 142 yards. Meanwhile, Metcalf, we held Metcalf to 43 yards though, so that's good, right? 2 touchdowns. It's brutal. It's brutal, and I stick up for Urban Meyer. I still love him. I'll never stop loving him for what he did for Ohio State and winning the national championship in 2015. However, man, what are you doing? I've never played a touch of organized football in my life. And I knew going for 2 was stupid. And then I finally got over going for 2, or not going for 2, I should say, was stupid. And then I finally got over the fact he didn't go for 2. And I said, okay, well, whatever. The Jaguars are losing. 24-7, final score, great, whatever. Put it on the next week. And then they line up for an onside kick. And it's a headache. Last week, we just did the hot seat for Trick or Treat for the Hitter Stand Halloween edition. And I said Urban Meyer's probably going to be on the hot seat for the rest of his coaching career just because of his off-the-field antics. Well, guess what? Now he's on the hot seat because of his stupid on-the-field antics. Stupid, moronic, illogical, inconsistent, idiotic. Those are the words I use to describe Urban Meyer down the stretch of a football game. When your team finally throws a touchdown. When Jamal Agnew, of all people, the only player on your offense who has been consistently good for you by running back kickoffs, and your team's so sorry and hurt that you have to play Jamal Agnew as a receiver. Which, no offense to Jamal Agnew, he's proven to all of us he can be a wide receiver. Sure, he definitely can. 6 catches for a touchdown? I was ignoring intentionally the 38 yards there because it's not so great, but what are you going to do with Jacksonville? They weren't driving the ball that game. Trevor Lawrence had 54 passing attempts and couldn't even break 250 passing yards. James Robinson, only 4 carries. And yes, he got hurt during it. Thankfully, he avoided serious foot injuries, and he's day-to-day now. But now they're relying on Carlos Hyde. And what in the world do you expect Jaguar fans to be optimistic about when you don't do anything at the trade deadline? You're not a buyer, you're not a seller, you're not in the rumor mill. You just suck. And of course players don't want to sign with you. Of course a guy like Odell Beckham doesn't want to come to the Jaguars. A guy like Deshaun Jackson will probably retire before he goes signs with the Jaguars. It's tragic. And not to say Seattle's some bad team that's embarrassing to lose to. Even with Geno Smith, I think Seattle is a competitive team. Competitive. Not great. Competitive. But, my God, you made them look like the Super Bowl champion Legion of Boom Seattle Seahawks. 31-7. Removed from the last time you played them down in Duval, down in Jacksonville, when the players of the Seahawks were trying to fight the fans in the crowd because they were so salty, because they got their butts whooped so bad. And then you lose 31-7. You let your rookie quarterback throw 54 times and put 7 points on the board. And that 7 points didn't come until the end of the game when the Seahawks' second or third unit was probably out on the field. Shameful. It's shameful, and guess what? The rain keeps pouring. Because Jacksonville next week, who do they play, right? Let's just think, who would the sports gods give to punish the Jaguars so bad after losing to Seattle? That's just, this game's going to be 100 times worse. They already played the Cardinals, so it can't be them, right? The Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen, who may throw for 400 yards, who may run for 400 yards, and may throw for 400 touchdowns. It's brutal. It is brutal. And then on top of all that, the Jaguars lose A.J. Cann, right guard, rest of the season. So now you're playing rookies there, which is great for development. I love it long term, but short term, it may look the start of the season. It may make the start of the season look like it was good because of how bad it may end up. Just bad stuff going on in Duval. I don't know if a coaching change even fixes it right now. It's a philosophical thing. I don't know. If they traded away a lot of pieces at the deadline, I'd say sure, they're rebuilding again. They're rebuilding for the quarterback they finally got. If they made trades, I'd say, okay, they're finally retooling a little bit. Let Trevor develop. Let him get better at least. If you're going to be bad this year and suck, the least you can do is let Trevor Lawrence develop. You can't do that. He has no one to throw to, no one to pat anything with that dynamically changes his development at all. I think an Odell Beckham would be, good for his development, even though the personality and the ego may be a distraction. You may not want that. But in Jacksonville, what's the difference? What's the difference? Your head coach made the distractions this year. What's Odell Beckham going to do worse? Lose you more games? You're already losing more games. It doesn't matter. I digress, though. I digress, and you can bet your bottom dollar. On Sunday, I'll be watching that Bills-Jaguars game. And at least until 1:15 p.m. Maybe even 1:10 p.m. I'm going to sit there and act like the Jaguars can win. That the Jaguars can pull off the upset. I think they're 14 to 17-point underdogs right now. The pessimistic side of me says that's not high enough at all. Bills by 3 touchdowns probably. If Seattle can cover 23.5 by winning by 24, what in the world can't the Bills cover? 28.5? 32.5? I hope I'm exaggerating. I hope I'm being dramatic. And I hope the Jaguars can play a competitive football game. They still have the Rams later in the season. They still have the 49ers later in the season. But on the flip side, they still have the Falcons, the Texans again, the Jets again, and the Colts twice. Win some of those. Win 2 of them, please. Then they play the Patriots the day after New Year's in Gillette. So that's a recipe for disaster. Traditionally, the Jaguars are bad in cold weather, especially in New England. We saw it in the playoff game in 2007. They weren't good out there. The players, if you remember, they were all their hands wrapped, whether they had broken fingers or because it was cold. These guys couldn't tackle at all. Very rough. Hopefully that doesn't happen January 2nd. But from what I'm seeing is that the Jaguars are going to already be packing it in by then. The Patriots are going to probably be trying some wild card heroics by then. So it's just bad. The only time I remember the Jaguars actually going to New England and winning was I was there. A little story time. When I was a kid, it was about, forgot the year now. It was definitely mid to early 2000s. Jaguars preseason against the Patriots, and they smacked them 31-3. Yeah, bigger score than Seattle beat them by. It was preseason, and it was in August, which is why I think the Jaguars played good up there. They played well. We'll hold aside the fact Tom Brady didn't play at all. But 31-3 in the preseason is the only time they'll probably beat them. January 2nd, it's not going to be any better. Yeah. Moving on to hitter stand for this week. The trade deadline passed on Tuesday. Very little movement. The only movement we had was Melvin Ingram getting traded to, drumroll, the Kansas City Chiefs. Hopefully he bolsters up their defense a little more. Hopefully the Chiefs can get back to that contender team with Melvin Ingram. Fun piece nonetheless. But other than that, very quiet trade deadline. So what I wanted to do is go through the teams that I think should have made moves for hitter stand. And we're going to start with the New Orleans Saints. They needed a receiver. They needed a quarterback after this week, but they didn't know that until Jameis Winston got hurt. They needed a number 2 receiver originally because Marquez Callaway's not it. They needed someone to help when Michael Thomas came back. We find out today Michael Thomas isn't coming back for the rest of the season. So now they have no receiver help, and their quarterback's out for the year. Trevor Siemian has no one to go to. So I was thinking, who could the Saints have traded for good receivers? And I couldn't help but think about Allen Robinson in Chicago. He's been the target of all the rumor mill over the past several weeks. No one ended up making a move for him. I think he would have been perfect in New Orleans. I don't know if the money matches well, but the idea matches great. I mean, even Allen Robinson and a team like Kansas City would have been great. It's a Warrior-like move. It'd make him a super team in Kansas City, which is why I think Josh Gordon was the more realistic option. But having Allen Robinson would have been great for the Saints. Even a lower tier, like we talk about Deshaun Jackson now. Deshaun Jackson would be great for the Saints. Just someone just open up the field, get open vertically, and create big plays. New Orleans needs those big plays. They had a couple big plays made on them with Tampa, but if they can do that on their side of the ball, they have no reason why they can't win the NFC South. I still think they can win the NFC South. But a move like Allen Robinson would have helped that a lot. I'm hearing the Saints should have traded for Jimmy Garoppolo, some said, but I guess you need to be a psychic for that, because how would you know Jameis Winston gets hurt on Sunday? Even if you did, Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't love that for the Saints. It would have been a lot better than what they have now with Trevor Siemian and Taysom Hill, but I just didn't think that was too realistic. They only had about a day or so for that negotiation between Sunday and Tuesday. I don't think we would have saw it. So yeah, I would have said hit. I think the Saints should have made that move. Moving on to the Packers. Should the Packers have traded for a receiver? They had Aaron Rodgers, notoriously surrounded by not enough talent. We've heard that for the past season and a half. The running back situation works, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, but his receiving core. We saw it when he had no Devontae Adams this past week. Who'd he go to? He had Robert Tonyan until he tore his ACL, so he had a bunch of no-names to throw to. And Randall Cobb was his only big-name receiver, and that's who got the touchdown. So I think that the Packers should have traded for receivers big time. Allen Robinson would have been good for them, maybe. Again, these are all not sure if the money lines up idea-wise, though. Brandon Cooks might have been a good idea. Houston might have gave you Brandon Cooks for $4. Who knows? They're the worst trade people in the world, Houston is. We've seen with David Johnson and the DeAndre Hopkins deal. Brandon Cooks, you probably could have talked him out of Houston very easily, and that would have been a cool little addition for the Packers down the stretch. Again, another big play target, a reliable target, a lot of good experience in big moments. That's all Aaron Rodgers needed this whole time, and the Packers probably could have had Rodgers for longer than just this season if they made moves like that, but they didn't. So I'm going to say Packers should have got your receiver when you had the chance. Now we have the Cleveland Browns, who they had Odell Beckham. They could have traded him. I'm not sure how many teams would have gave him great value for Odell Beckham. I'm going to say stand on that. I don't think they should have desperately shelled out Odell, even if they could have. I think they could have made it work, and I'm saying this without the hindsight that I already know that they didn't make it work today. It came out that the Browns sent Odell Beckham home. They said, hey, with all the issues, I think there was, they described it as a personal matter off the field, whatever it was. Odell Beckham's no longer with the team, and some say don't expect him back for the rest of the year. Again, though, we didn't know that. We figured just it was some small problem with Odell that they could make work and deal with in Cleveland. It wasn't the deal. And now Cleveland's stuck hoping Jarvis Landry's healthy enough to be the number one. They're sitting there hoping Donovan Peoples-Jones isn't just a fluke and can consistently contribute for them on a weekly basis. Moving on, the final team I wanted to talk about is the Arizona Cardinals. They lost J.J. Watt for the rest of the year. This was about a week and a half ago that news came out. I believe it was another shoulder injury for Watt. I mean, those upper body injuries are just stacking up for him. He's getting older. It's the position he plays. Very, very aggressive, violent, contact, high position. So should the Cardinals have made a trade? I'm going to say stand again. I don't think that's realistic. I think their team, even without J.J. Watt, can go win games, can go to the playoffs, can possibly represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. But much more realistically, they can win that division that they're in the lead of right now without any pieces. I think adding new pieces to a team after losing your first game of the year comes off as very overreactionary. Could probably cause some tension or problems in that locker room of, does that front office doubt us right now? Did that loss make them think we can't handle a long run in the season? I don't know. I don't think they would have been smart to make that move, and they didn't. So we'll see if it pays off later in the year as Kyler Murray looks to restart his MVP campaign. Final thing I wanted to touch on before we get on out of here, get out of this stadium. These lights are getting expensive. In 2 weeks, it's November 19th, I'll be leaving. I'm going to Cleveland, Ohio for the weekend and about 5 days or so. It's about a 5-day trip. I was originally going to see the Cleveland Cavaliers basketball game. As I planned the trip out a little more, I looked, and the Cleveland Browns happened to be at home that week. So, you know me, I have to go to that. The opportunity, I may not find myself in an opportunity to go to a Cleveland Browns home game again. So I will be going. That week they're playing the Lions. Very winnable game for Cleveland. I'd hope so. Odell or not, Baker or not, regardless who doesn't play, it's the Lions. They should be able to win. It should be a fun game to watch the dog pound in real life. But the reason I'm saying this isn't because I'm talking about all my vacation plans here. It's because I wanted to figure out how to incorporate this podcast in that trip to make the most of it. So for one, I'll be filming one of my episodes of Pushing the Pylon from Cleveland. Secondly, I'm going to try my best to figure out if we can get someone on here as a guest, whether it's for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or longer. Somebody in Cleveland football organization, whether it's a player, whether it's a staff member, whether it's a guy who throws hot dogs up in section 334. We want to talk to you on Pushing the Pylon. Again, I don't care who it is. It'd be a great experience, though, down in Cleveland. I'm going to try to film as well. We'll get some clips on the next episode of Pushing the Pylon. Maybe we'll do a little montage in the middle of the episode. However we may do it, it should be a good time. I will be wearing a Cleveland Browns jersey there. I have an Odell jersey. That's probably hasn't and won't age any better than it already hasn't by then. So let me know if you think there's a good player out there, get their jersey. Let me know. I would normally say Denzel Ward, but he's out for the year. So maybe someone who's actually going to be playing that Sunday. Regardless, we will be there. And somewhere I won't be much longer is here. Signing off. Thank you all for tuning in to Pushing the Pylon. And until next time, thank you very much.